What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie, and today we're going to talk about a traditional green tea and the Sailor Zoom Nib. So I walked into my local David's Tea again, and I decided to try something different, something that I wouldn't ordinarily want to try on my own. So this time I got a green tea, which if you watched my last video, you know I'm not a huge fan of green tea, but I thought I'd give it a try. And I got a tea that I'm going to butcher the name, so I apologize. I'll write it down here so that hopefully you'll be able to tell. But it's genmaicha? Genmaicha? I have no idea. I'm sorry. But it's a traditional Japanese blend of green tea that combines sencha with roasted rice. So it kind of looks almost like there's popcorn in it or there's like Rice Krispies in it mixed in with the green tea. And when you smell the tea, it really does, you can really get that roasted element. And what I thought was interesting was that tea came about because it used to be that very poor Japanese people would drink that because they couldn't afford all tea. So they would actually use the rice, the roasted rice, as a filler. But now everyone drinks it just as is. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's kind of like the history of lobster. So I'm Canadian, in Newfoundland, though people that like would eat lobster all the time were considered poor because that's just what they had access to. They're, if they're fishermen or anything like that. Whereas now lobster is very much considered a delicacy. So it's kind of interesting, like when you think of things like that, the way that things that traditionally were unpopular or poor or seen as gross are now, idealized in today's kind of world. So I think that's kind of really neat. But anyways, you take that tea, you steep it for about 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want to fully boil the water because it will kind of burn the leaves a little bit. But I really liked it, actually. It's not something that I think I would go to every day because it does have a very nutty flavor. So it's kind of like green tea mixed with toasted rice. So you do get, a very nutty flavor on top of the green tea flavor. So it isn't something that I would run to every day. But every once in a while, if the mood strikes, I would definitely, get another cup. I don't think I would buy it because if you were to buy it to get 50 grams worth of that tea, it would be $6.98. So I don't think I would buy it because I don't think I would want to drink it enough, but it would be something that I would grab here and there from the store itself. But I was pleasantly surprised. And something that I was also pleasantly surprised with is this pen here. So this is the Sailor 1911. I do have a full review of this pen in the white version, which I will link in the iCard. So I'm not going to go fully into this pen as far as the review of the pen. Spoiler, I really, really liked it. But if you want to learn a little bit more of the details of the pen, head over to that review. This review is mainly because this one that I borrowed from a friend has the Sailor Zoom Nib on it. And that is a nib that I am completely unfamiliar with, or at least I was when trying this pen out for the first time. The whole idea behind the Zoom Nib is that the way that it's ground, it's a big honkin' tippin' material, and the way that it's ground is so that you can get a very, very, very thick line and a very thin line all within the same nib that doesn't involve flexing. So it's a very interesting concept. I'm going to flip the camera around so that I can show you a little bit more up close as to what I am referring to. So this is a pen I also have a review of. This is the Sailor Pro Gear Slim 4 Seasons. The reason why I brought this one out is just so that you can see what a more traditional nib is. This is the Sailor Medium Fine. And to be honest, it is pretty fine. But just for a comparison's sake, that is pretty much the average for Sailor. And if I pull out this guy, which look at the tipping material on this, holy smokes. I will do a macro, actually, you know what? Right now, I'm gonna insert a macro shot of this nib to really give you a closer idea of this grind, because it is just stunning. The concept behind it is that the lower angle you have your pen, so the more flat you have your pen like this rather than upright like this, the lower angle your pen is, the fatter the line's gonna be. So at my everyday angle holding the pen, which is about a 45-degree angle, I don't want to consider it average, but it's pretty close. If I were to write, look at the difference between that. That is insane. But if I were to flip it over, boom, look at the difference. And then if I were to hold it still like normal way, but like perpendicular almost, I can get it even thinner. And again, like, this basically becomes a marker to a fine liner. Like, there's no other nib that I know of that you can really get that like insane line difference out of the same nib. And no matter what position I've held it in, it's all been so smooth. And when you have it like this, like in the thick line, it's basically like you're using a marker. Even when you have it like flipped over, it's still pretty darn wet no matter what position that you're holding it in. So I really love the flow. It is so unbelievably smooth. I'm pleasantly surprised with how much I actually really enjoy using this nib. You know, using it like this is a little hard in the sense of like my everyday journal writing, but it's really nice to kind of like bring out and play with. And if you get used to holding it a little bit higher, which takes some practice, it was not something that came to me naturally, because I usually hold my pen like this, which is what gets me this fat line here. I have adjusted when I use this pen now to holding it a little bit higher so that I get a bit more of a finer line. So instead of holding like this, I now hold this pen like this. And this has become comfortable to me now. It's not something that I'm used to. This is the only pen that I do hold like this. But if I want a really fat line, I can. If I want a thinner line, I can. If I want a super thin line, I can do this. Although this isn't natural, I would much rather hold it in my usual position, but upside down to get a bit of a better line. But this is traditionally now how I hold this pen, a little bit higher. So basically above the knuckle rather than below the knuckle. That makes a huge difference. So you definitely have to adjust the way that you hold this pen depending on what you want. And I also found that I would recommend sitting at like a table or something when you are holding this pen. I was journaling in bed with this, and because the mattress isn't hard, the paper kind of like rocks back and forth. Depending on, again, because this pen really does rely on the angles of which you hold the pen. If you have it at an odd spot, you can get it where the nib doesn't write. But it isn't a flaw of the nib, it's the way that I was holding the pen at such an odd angle, because again, it's ground so peculiarly, but deliciously peculiar. So would I recommend this for like everyday writing? I don't think it's going to be an every person pen, unless you can get used to, holding it differently. So that may be something that a lot of people don't like. But I think this pen or this nib grind definitely has its place. I really actually quite enjoy it more than I thought I would. And the ink, by the way, in case you're wondering, is Monteverde turquoise. But yeah, I really, really like it. It's not something I think I would go to every single time, but I'm surprised with how many times I do actually go for this pen. So I would recommend it, especially if you've got a chance. The best thing I think you can do is try as hard as you can to get to a pen shop that will let you try one out. Because, or at least it has a really good return policy, because this pen, or this nib, is something that you will have to adjust to, but I am really glad that I did. I really like it. But guys, that's gonna be it for this video today. It's a little bit different. I hope you liked it. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. If you really like the video and haven't yet done so already, do hit the subscribe button. I do make videos every Monday and Friday and the occasional Q&A on Tuesday. Don't be afraid of that comment section below. Let me know, have you tried the Zoom Nib before? Do you like the Zoom Nib? And guys, as always, I will see you next time. Bye.